Sales leaders, if you're tired of reps missing quota, ramp time is dragging on, and turnover eating your pipeline alive, this episode's for you. Hey, I'm Mark Shane. Over the last decade, I've helped thousands of sales leaders fix exactly those problems. One org cut turnover from 50% to under 20% in year one. Another went from missing forecasts by 20% to consistently hitting 105% to plan. The difference? Systems, not pep talks. And today on my interview on 30 Minutes of Presence Club, I'm breaking down the 4 coaching systems that separate elite sales orgs from the average ones. These are battle tested with teams of 100 plus reps across industries and deal sizes, and you can literally start using them this week. So if you're ready to stop hoping your team gets better and to start making them better, let's dive in.
Alrighty, Marcus, welcome back to the show. We start every leadership show with your top 3 actionable takeaways. Let's get your 3.
All right, cool. Number 1, create a personal success blueprint for each new hire. So this is a tool I use to take turnover from over 50% down to sub 20% in the first year of the org, over 100 plus reps, while hitting peak up every single year. So it's really quite simple. So for every new hire or new employees, just sit them down and you can use a Google Sheet and you fill a personal success blueprint that includes at least 5 categories. So, number 1 is going to be their personal goals and income goals. 2 is what drives them personally, so their why. 3 is how best they like to be led. 4 is how they like to receive feedback, and the perceived strengths and weaknesses. And you use this form as a guide to the conversation about their future, and then you list out like 2 to 3 action items that really help develop them. So for instance, let's just say if they say, hey, Mark, I want to get promoted eventually. So you set a really clear action item that'll help them develop a really core skill for the future. So that could be something like set up time with the general manager to walk through the P&L and how all departments connect together, put together a presentation to teach the team. So something like that so they can walk and do it literally right after the meeting together.
Boom. What's number 2?
Create the Road to Presence Club routine. So the reality is most reps have zero idea what a good day or a good week even looks like. That's actually realistic. So build a really simple visual tool inside like Google Sheets that breaks down what we call the Road to Presence Club. So this shows you literally hour by hour exactly what a Presence Club AE routine looks like from when they start work. So it breaks down in visceral detail. Say, for example, if they wake up at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., what do they do? That could be exact phone prospecting times, all their internal meetings, that's sales meetings, one-on-ones, team trains, etc. How many sales spots available for discoveries, demos, etc. So you set the expectation, how many of those are, the prep time, or whatever it's going to be. So it should be so clear. They follow it verbatim, it'll be hard not to be successful. So for instance here, you can have all your internal meetings inside there. Let's just say, for example, you want your team to prospect more. So one of those blocks could be from 8 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday is a prospecting block every single day. So ultimately, once you have this completely filled out, this becomes the benchmark for training and the minimum expectation. So if performance wanes, it's really easy to compare to what a perfect week is and then recalibrate if you need to.
All right, bring it home. What's number 3?
Number 3, I call it the 3-3-3 coaching system. So that's 3 meetings, 3 strengths, and 3 focuses. So by the 25th of each month, send out calendar invites for 2 different half days together with each AE on your team. And you set the clear expectation. They are to set up 3 meetings that are a mix of new discovery calls, demos, exec readouts, etc., depending whichever role that they're selling for. Now, the AEs are also to send calendar invites to any prep materials in advance as well. Now, on those half days, you want to meet 15 to 30 minutes in advance of the day to game plan, for a little bit. And then at the end of the half day, a 30-minute block to actually debrief with them together as well. So then you use this opportunity to observe, help, and show your AE how to be successful on the calls, regardless of the development level. So even if they're brand new, if they're struggling, if they're crushing it, you're doing this for every single AE on your team. And then at the end of each half day, you review the day together with them. And you identify 3 things they excelled in, and then you just pick only 3 things to focus on that'll make the greatest impact. So don't give them 100 things. The 3 things that'll give them the greatest impact across their whole sales process. And you make sure whatever you pick, you are crystal clear on the what, the how, and the why. So literally they can walk away and implement literally immediately. If you do this consistently, you'll see your team's skills results improve over time while you build massive trust with them. That's beyond just checking the box.
I want to go back to this personal success blueprint, Marcus. I've seen a lot of people work with their teams on a Google document that try to get at what is this rep's motivation? How do I support them? And then literally 15 minutes after they finish the doc, it's never referred to, looked at, or mentioned again, right? How are you getting this built into the DNA of your team so that it becomes like something that's useful and not a one-off exercise?
You're absolutely right, Mark. Most of the time, people treat this like a flavor of the week or a one-time event. You want this to be part of their journey. So there's a couple things I would highly recommend. So I think number one, when you actually walk through the personal success blueprint, that should be the only objective of the meeting. So literally, like, this is the meeting. We're only doing this single thing. So you are creating significance around that. Then number two, let them know in 6 months, we're going to discuss this again. Now, if you're managing your calendar tightly, I will literally at that time, just like you're booking a prospect or the dentist, open your calendar up. You book that meeting 6 months from now. You put it into your calendar so it's set on your calendar on there. Even if you need to adjust it a little bit, let's get a little closer, at least it's on the calendar and they see it, they accept it, and they realize, whoa, this leader takes it very, very seriously. Now, if you don't want to put it on your calendar, this is what I did personally because my calendar got crazy all the time. I actually just had a tickler in my invite that I just created to say, hey, set up development conversation with X. So that way I'll see it like, oh, it's time to do it. And that way, when it pops up, you book that new time with them. And what's actually really amazing is when you do it the second time with them, they're blown away, Mark, because they're like, okay, I thought this was like you just kind of checking the box. You actually sat down with me initially. No one's ever done that. And now you actually follow back up. And you're actually holding me accountable to these action items. And they realize now you actually truly care. And it's amazing because at this point, let's say they're brand new, you've now had 6 months of developing trust and relationship with them, rapport. So as long as you're consistent, they really see that you truly want them to win. So this is actually how you get them to perform and reduce turnover while also deploying discretionary effort at a whole new level.
I guess what I would be nervous about is doing this and setting an expectation. And then my managers are now like not doing it because it's like not in their face every day. I'm not going to bring this up before every one-on-one and be like, oh, let me remember how Marcus wants me to give feedback. So how do you get like into the manager so that it's useful?
Yeah, great question. So I think the first piece is, if you're overseeing managers, you do the same thing with your managers. So the greatest leaders lead not by just what they tell their people to do. They actually do it with their leaders. So I'll give you a really simple example. So, I went from, managing, I was a sales manager running a group team with 6 to 20 reps. Okay. Overnight got promoted and suddenly I ran an 85-person org with 8 different sales managers at the time. Right. One of my first things I did with each of them is with literally this exact thing, each leader. And they're shocked because they're like, no one's ever done this before. Right. And then I actually then did with each of their reps. So I actually showed them what good looks like. At each of the reps I sat on each of the reps. They saw me run through their team of 8 to 12 reps individually with them. So the first year while I was helping them develop this rhythm, they saw me do that. And 6 months later, when I was back in town again, I did the same thing with the reps again. And I did the same thing with them as well. So they start to see that I was leading through my actions of what I expected. So that's a key. If you want to change behaviors and performance, you can't be an armchair quarterback. You can't sit back and, just be behind your laptop throwing the ball. You need to lead from the front and show them what that actually looks like at every single level.
Marcus, I'm curious, how does this attach to a lot of times people do like beginning of quarter goal setting or stuff like that, where you're like building your path to President's Club, for example? Is this similar to that? Do you like tie them together? Is that like a different goal setting exercise? I know you coach a lot of like 7-figure sellers, and like, how do you get them to break down that path in digestible pieces?
Yeah, great. So I love that, right? So there's a couple things, right? So I picture, if we look at from a tiered level, at the very top level is actually this personal success blueprint. If you think about this should have a lot of the personal goals. So they'll have stuff on there like, I want to buy a new home. I want to retire my spouse. I want to, retire by 40. I want to stack 5 million cash, whatever. You'll see a number of these things. And they really should be things that are beyond like, let me hit my number, hit President's Club. These should be like, if they hit these things, President's Club becomes a byproduct. Hitting their number becomes a byproduct. So if they shoot for the stars, land, the moon is the type of principle, that's how you want to think. So you have that as a top layer as how it all works. And then you go one below that, which is, okay, now at the company level, what's that look like? How do you deploy it from a QBR or month or MBR or whatever? Now, one slight pivot. I actually don't like QBRs. I prefer actually MBRs, monthly business reviews instead, because I found in the quarter too much stuff changes. You're far more accurate in at least managing your number. So anyways, besides that point though, so you have the core overall personal success blueprint, and then you have you're planning at your monthly business review. So that at that point, if you think about it, if they know what they're already going after, everything below in that business review should align towards hitting towards that. So from the accounts they want to go after, the deals that they need to work on, the red flags they have to worry about, their pipeline, etc., everything flows together. So we don't want to treat it as like separate events. It's all part of the journey of helping them get to where they want to go. Because ultimately, if they are clear on their executional path, they're going to have a high likelihood to actually get to where they want to go. But this is where there's so many systems in place that feed into each other, right? So you have the personal success blueprint, then you have the monthly business review, like I mentioned, right? But then on top of that, every single week, you're doing certain things as a sales leader to drive performance. And it's not just one's important, others not important. They all feed into each other. And when you are ultimately going towards the same end goal, their North Star, their personal goals, you have a high likelihood for success. But the mistake a lot of leaders make is they don't do that. Instead, they lead them towards the number they want them to be at, the quota, the number as a team. And that's just not important to the rep, frankly.
So Marcus, you just dropped us into your weekly rhythms, right? So it goes from like the personal success blueprint to the monthly plan that will get you to your number, to your goal, or your presence club. And then you have literally on a weekly basis, all of the meetings or the rhythms or the trainings you're running with your sales team. And this was like really awesome when we were going through it in the prep. So could you just give me like a high level overview of the 4 training systems that you run on a weekly or on a monthly basis?
100%. So here's the 4 simple systems for creating a culture of high performance. So number 1 is a winning Wednesday training session where you have a specific training session every single week in this very specific format. Number 2, I call them real play Fridays. So not role plays, but real play Fridays where you have a set time on Friday where you're doing full role plays that are real like a prospect every single Friday. Number 3 are monthly war rooms. So literally on a monthly basis, bring the entire team together for 4 hours of a targeted skill and deal progression meeting where you're helping them dig through their deals, or the biggest deals in their pipeline, moving things forward and generating more pipeline as part of it as well. And then the 4th is a little more advanced one. It's called the Apex Club, which is creating a leadership development program that you are implementing every single month, designed to prepare your AEs for the next step.
So first, let's recap the 4. So you have Winning Wednesdays, which are just a training session. You have Real Play Fridays, which are 2 hours of like brute force role plays. You have monthly war rooms, which are a 4-hour targeted skill and deal progression. And then you have the Apex Club, which is your leadership development program. Let's start with the Winning Wednesday training session. What are you training on? Who's running the training? What are the keys to running this right?
The beautiful part is this should be very easy to implement literally every single week. So it's a week, it's set on the calendar for every single rep at set time. So I loved Wednesdays, right? Because, reps can start off the week, hopefully kind of excited for the week, but then they get kind of run down a little bit. The Wednesday's a bit of a pick me up. Okay. So it's going to be a weekly training session every single week that follows a very specific format. Now, first off, before I go into that, the way you get topics is actually very easy. It's as simple as, what are you seeing on calls and call reviews every single week? What's the team struggling with? Those are clear signs. It's not you just picking like, oh, I found some interesting training on YouTube or whatever. It's like, oh, the team is struggling with this, right? Or, oh, like we really struggle with multi-threading. We need to run a 4-week session on multi-threading, messaging, et cetera, to really improve those skills. So the ideas are all around you if you pay close attention. All right. Now, here's how you do it. So here's how you structure. So you start the meeting off very simple. So first off, before you dive into it, each AE shares a win so far in the week. So I'm going to go round table on the Zoom or whatever, or in person. They each share a win so far in the week. And this is really, really important because this allows each AE to focus on what has been a win so far. Because sometimes if they had a tough week so far, they're beating themselves up. This gives them a chance to think, okay, what was a win so far? It gets them to kind of pull themselves out of it to reframe their mind. So half the time, that mental game is like everything, right? If you will. So get them to reprogram that territory between their ears. So after they share a win, then you go through and you teach something specific. So the framework is first you teach the exact framework the team needs to improve. So for instance, if I'm teaching, let's call it, my objection handling framework, it's like, hey, here's how we handle objection. It's HEART, and you explain what it is and what it's all about. Now, that should be maybe 5 or 10 minutes or so. It shouldn't be too complex. Give them exact wording to say, scripting framework, et cetera, to follow. Right? Make it so simple they can do it literally after you hear. Now, here's the thing. They're going to be skeptical depending on how long you work with them, how much they trust you. So then you're going to role play as a leader live with your AE. and you want your AE to be tough. So you pick someone that you know is probably going to kind of bust you up a little bit, and you pick them and say, we're going to role play now. Like, like throw me an objection. I'll be the salesperson. You be the prospect, and you do it live with them. And you know they're going to try to throw you curveballs. And this is why you need to know your stuff as a leader. So when you do it live with them and you show them how it's done, it's amazing how much trust you actually build with the team. And then the team they go role play with each other, and for the next 30 minutes, so they're actually doing it live. And you're encouraging them to be tough on each other, and they provide feedback for each other, and you're just listening in. So if you're on Zoom, you're hopping in different rooms, and you're listening, giving feedback, and you're coaching, just like you're watching them coach in practice on the field. So that's really key. If you do it every single week like that, you'll see a skill increase. And at the very end, if you have time, you pick one person to do it live in front of everybody. So oftentimes, that peer feedback is always the hardest. So you put them in uncomfortable environments intentionally to thicken their skin and make them better. So because you don't want them to practice on prospects, you want them to practice with each other. So you pull one person, they practice in front of everyone gives them kudos, gives them feedback, and then the meeting wraps up and they go crush the day.
Dude, I imagine this being like a killer Wednesday session that most teams run maybe once a month. You're having a sales leader break down one framework. Then the sales leader does the role play with an AE who's going to grill them. So it's like, I can get grilled so you can get grilled. Then you pair them up to role play on their own. You're dropping in rooms, giving feedback. And then the team has one person go up and do the role play in front of the entire team.
Correct.
A lot of times with managers, some of the things that I hear is like, I can't put together a training every single week. And so how do you get the managers comfortable literally putting together a framework or full deck or something like that every single week on a grueling pace?
I was fastidious about development. So when I was running a large org, I deployed trainings all the time to make it easier for them. So I gave them PowerPoint decks and slide decks to go and train their teams with. So they had tools to go and run with. That makes it a little bit easier, right? That's a perfect situation. You have somebody who is obsessive with winning, okay? And they're obsessed with making their org win, so they do stuff like that. Now, you may not have that, which is okay, right? So that means then, as a sales leader, you have to think to yourself, okay, this is one of the highest leverage things I can do, which is make my team better, right? That's one of those highest leverage things you can do. That means then, if you aren't good at thinking of frameworks and come up with ideas like that, is then you need to go through and find stuff to show them and teach them, right? That means you're listening to podcasts like 30 Minutes of Presence Club. You're pulling one tactic out and you're going to practice yourself to get really good with it, right? And reality is this is what separates the elite from the average. Because the average leaders will say, that sounds like too much work. Well, you're right. It is a lot of work. But you know what's even harder? When you miss your number and you go get a new job. That's even harder. But when you're actually really good at your job, you have longevity in your career, it's amazing how much wealth you can build because of it, right? So it's kind of like you get to choose your heart. What's going to be harder, doing this or like getting a different job because your team's not performing?
So Marcus, we got Winning Wednesdays. We got this rhythm now, hour every single week. Guess what, managers? Your job is to get your team better. So we're going to give you time to do it every single week, right? And now you move into something else, which is
Real Play Fridays.
Real Play Fridays.
Now, a little context around this because when I started as a sales leader, I didn't have this, by the way, right? Because one of the things is, I was doing the Winning Wednesdays training, which is great, and you're getting skill development. But sometimes if you have a bigger team, my team got bigger, I found that some of the reps didn't get enough time for role plays and repetition. So what they were doing is they were just practicing on prospects, which is a very dangerous thing to do. You're putting ill will out there, you're losing deals. It's not a good thing to do, right? So I started to implement Real Play Fridays. So what this was for every new hire or anybody who's not performing, and I also made it open to other people, is I set up on a time on Friday for 2 hours to do full real plays. So these are not just role plays. This is where you as a sales leader act as a toughest prospect, and you run through full scenarios of the reps on the discovery, demo, whatever, right? And they're coming in and they're role playing with you, and you're just being tough on them, right? You're getting them bloody behind closed doors. So this is some of the most valuable time to start doing it, right? And some out there are like, oh, it sounds kind of intense. It was intense. It was intentionally intense. But what was really interesting was when I started to do this, the new hires, they got better faster. The underperformers started performing as well. But even the top reps started coming. So they kept they're missing out because we're having fun doing it. We're doing it, and then we're having fun. We're laughing, we're messing up. It's it's not like a serious thing. It's just we're just trying to improve our skills. So when they saw that, they started coming as well. They started coaching the reps too. So it became part of the culture. It wasn't just for underperformers or new hires. It was hey, if you want to increase your skills and you have time, you don't have any meetings, come join the Real Play Fridays, and we're going to practice your skills. And the really cool part is like over time, you just start to see them develop much faster. So like, I knew, for instance, a new hire, by the time I opened a job requisition, but by the time they started hitting an okay number, took 157 days. That's open job rec to at least closing some sort of deal. That meant I'd have open territories that are underperforming. So I had to close that gap. Stuff like this help close the gap. So they're literally closing deals, like booking means closing within their first month. So this is drastically important because I knew I was always up against the clock. If you know you already run 20, 30% turnover every single year, you're at a disadvantage every time you have new hires. So you have to be strategic in how you constantly upskill your team and get them skilled as fast as possible, because otherwise you're going to miss your number.
So I want to do a real, you convinced me. I want to do a real play session, but I'm having trouble picturing it in my mind.
Perfect.
I have a virtual team. I have, say, 12 people on my team. Am I doing one person at a time? Are they in breakout rooms? Like, take me through how that meeting runs.
Perfect. So if you have 12 people on there, that's really awesome, by the way. So most of the time I would have maybe 2 to 4 that would come, right, as part of it, right? But let's say, imagine if you have 12. So if you have 12 people are going to be there, then you are going to have to get some help, realistically. So that would mean like maybe you're taking someone who's a little more tenured, and they're going to be the prospect, okay? Or if you need a couple people, you pick a couple people to be the prospect, and it's going to be, some people are going to be role playing live, and I'll write the scenarios in advance. If you want to have some fun, by the way, you pick some of the reps and you have them write the scenarios. They love doing this. They just write a couple bullet points of the toughest situation you had in the last couple of weeks, and let's just have some fun with it, right? And then it starts off very simple. So like, okay, let's say you have 3 people who are going to be the prospects, you and 2 other, more seasoned people. All right, cool. They each has a scenario. 3 people are role playing, and the other 6, they're observing. So they can hop in different rooms and just observe, because this is key. Because sometimes it's kind of like, it's easier to coach other people but yourself, right? But when they start to coach other people, they actually start to improve their own self-awareness. Yeah. So it's what it is. You're almost like watching game tapes live with each other, right? And then, once they get done, you basically reverse it, right? And then you do enough times so this way everyone gets a chance to role play. So that can be really powerful. Now, depending on the level of resourcing you have, if you have other department heads who maybe have some sort of sales acumen, or maybe, how buyers buy, get them involved too. So I actually would get other people as well. If I was having a larger session, I get other people involved as well. So they can be a tough prospect too. Like, for example, someone from CS, get someone from CS come over who does all the complaints. It's amazing how tough those role plays can be, but they get far better skilled now, because they know it's like, okay, this is going to be tough. And the more you can do it, the more consistent you are, the better it's going to be. Now, it won't be easy to start doing, but you have to make it a habit. So this is why, as a sales leader, you have that Road to President's Club, you have these set blocks in your calendar for yourself and the team, so they can come in there and you're creating an environment for success.
So I got my team, I'm on Zoom. I say, okay, Marcus and Armand, you guys are going to be prospects. Susie and Sally, you guys are going to be sellers. Go off into a breakout room or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to, some people are going to go to one, some people they're going to watch and observe and watch those role plays. Then when the role play's over, they come back together and you discuss, like, what did we learn? How can we do it better? Is that kind of how it works?
So it depends on how you want to do it. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. Okay. So like, for instance, like depending on how good those other 2 people are that are going to be prospects. So let's just say they're pretty good reps and they've been around for a little bit. They're pretty savvy. You may want to do all the coaching and feedback just within that room, just to make it simple from a logistics perspective. So you're not like jumping around, right? And you can just do on the spot from there. But if they're maybe not as good, then it's going to be like, okay, hey, in 1 hour, and we're going to circle back around. We're going to talk about what you guys saw and just go round table. So there's some flexibility there. You have to kind of gauge it based off the skill level of your team, to be specific.
Let's talk about the monthly war room, because you have a 4-hour skill building and deal progression meeting. And it looks like you're structuring hours 1 and 2 differently from hours 3 and 4. So like, what does that look like?
Yeah, these are a lot of fun if you do it right. So this should be, ideally, it's a set time that's the same, like, last Friday of every single month. It's a set time where it's 4 hours where you're focusing on the skills and moving deals forward. So for instance here, so hours like 1 and 2, you have each rep pull up their account plan one at a time for one large deal that's stalled. So this should be like their top deals, maybe the top 10% of the ACV deals. You have them walk through the deal in front of everybody, and then just open up for feedback and questions on the deal. So ultimately, the cool part is that if the team will start to ask questions and it's like, hey, did you do this? What about this? And dive deeper into the deal. And when you do it together like this, what's amazing is like the group think and the ideas that come from it. And the goal is you come away with a very clear, actionable strategy that AE can literally go and implement literally right after. So after they go, then you have another rep go, right? And you just kind of go through until the time is up. And then hours 3 and 4, now it's about deploying the strategy. So whatever they came up with to do to follow in that first couple hours, now they go through and they deploy a strategy. They can also go through any other stalled deals. And usually what happens is they're like, now the gears are turning. They're like, oh, here's this other deal. It's really some I haven't thought through this way, right? And they can start executing, moving forward. And if they don't have enough opportunities to work, then they work on identifying, researching, and add new opportunities to add to their pipeline. But this way, you're moving your biggest deals forward, and you're generating more pipeline through a very set, focused time every single month at a set time on a set day each month.
Do you have them go do it and then come back and be like, hey, this is what happened. This is how it's working. Is there like kind of like a live stream of what's happening?
You're exactly right. So depending on the team and where they are at, right? Like we literally would huddle every hour. Hours, so hour 3, they go through and deploy, 50-minute timer. They bust their butt, put in the work in for 50 minutes, 10-minute break. They hit the restroom, get some drinks, and then come back and we discuss how did the first 50 minutes go. And what happens is there's a lot of peer accountability. Nobody wants to say, hey, you know what, the 2 hours we spent earlier today, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They're like, this is what I did. This is the lead that generated. This is what I booked, right? And if they were booking opportunities, we'd actually have them write out who they booked, the accounts, and who it was with. So this way people could see what it was. Because what happened was, especially for we sold to all industries. So for instance, let's just say they sold into Providence healthcare system. It's a healthcare system, right? And they booked a certain means, maybe the clinic side. We're like, oh, okay, we also have, the actual hospital side over in this other part of the territory. So now we can reference that, and that other rep can now call into this other opportunity. So we actually use to feed off each other. So you have to create some of these systems for accountability, such as these huddles, to help deploy that. And then, 50 minutes goes by, they go and they deploy more work. And then before they wrap up, they get together at the break and they share their results again. And the cool part is like, you'll make progress, but like the team is like buzzing because they're actually making progress. Because sometimes they get so busy, especially if they have a large like portfolio of accounts, they get so busy with the other accounts. This is like the focus on the biggest accounts that they have. And they're like, okay, I actually really move the needle. It's like deep strategic work that you're helping them focus on because you're creating the environment for success.
Dude, amazing show. We talked about a lot of good habits that sales leaders can exhibit. But our final question is this. What is one bad habit that every sales leader should break so that all teams can get it to President's Club?
Allowing mediocrity to seep into the team. Like when you set the expectation and standard for how things need to perform and you allow people to break that rule. I'm not saying just be a stickler to be a stickler, but when you allow mediocrity to seep into the team, you are saying it's okay to do these things. It's okay to break the rules. It's okay to not hold yourself to a certain standard. And this applies across the board. You could have a President's Club level rep. And if you have the mandate, hey, we as a team, this is what we do every Wednesday to train the team, to help become better. This is what everyone needs to do. And that top rep's like, I'm too good for that. And you allow that to happen. You actually allow mediocrity to happen. You're allowing them to say, the rules don't apply to me. So you have to be always very, very careful allowing them mentality across the board that they have to have a growth mindset. And it starts with you as the leader. So you can say it all that you want, but how do your actions show it? And everything we discussed today, as you've seen, is you leading from the front. When you lead from the front and you show expectations up here, and this is how I perform as myself, the team will follow suit. And those who can't follow suit, that's okay. You can then top grade the team and bring people in who are willing to follow that culture. Look, here's the reality. Most sales leaders treat team development like it's a nice to have instead of the highest leverage activity they can do. They'll spend hours in forecast calls, but won't invest 2 hours a week making their people better. That's obviously backwards. Your job as a leader isn't to be the smartest person in the room, it's to make everyone else in the room smarter. These 4 systems, Winning Wednesdays, Real Play Fridays, monthly war rooms, and the Apex Club, they're not just tactics. They're how you build a culture where getting better is non-negotiable. I've seen what happens when leaders implement these consistently. Reps who are struggling suddenly start closing deals. New hire ramps 60% faster. Top performers stay engaged instead of jumping ship, but you have to actually do the work. No shortcuts, no delegating to enable and hoping for the best. Now, if you found this valuable, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. I share the exact system and figures I use with 7-figure sellers and VPs and CROs and sales teams every single week. If you're ready to go deeper, I've got something for you. I run a diagnostic and training program where we identify the exact revenue leaks in your org and fix them systematically. It's the same process how one client moved 5.1 million installed deals close one in 90 days. Check the link in the description if you want to see if it's a good fit for your company too. Until next time, let's lead from the front.